Let's talk about how to select the right crop for nutrient film technique or NFT hydroponic production. Selecting crops for NFT production has something or a lot to do with roots. Of course, when we're talking about nutrient film technique, it's all about that nutrient film, that channel in which the crop is growing. NFT systems are often grown in these channels, a thin, long section containing multiple plants. But when we go in a cross section of this channel, it looks almost like a rain gutter. It's just this small, perhaps 4 to 6 inch wide trough in which the plants grow. This, and it's even shorter than it is wide, between 2 to 4 inches. This doesn't leave a lot of room for roots. So how do we make sure that the crops we are growing will be able to fit and be productive within this small constrained system? So again, here we are, thinking about the roots of the crop. This portion here. We need these roots to not grow too long because we have a shallow rooting depth. They also can't get too long because they are packed in rather tightly, and so even this shallow rooting depth, these roots are going to hit the ground, hit the bottom of the profile, and start going sideways, going long ways. So these roots are starting to slope this way, and so are the next plant's roots, and so on down the line. This is in part aided by the fact that NFT channels are grown on a slight slope. We could even redraw this trough here. So again, we've got these roots, these plants in this NFT channel. They can't grow their roots too deep before they hit the bottom, and so those roots start going sideways. Then those roots start running into competition from the next plant. And so rather than having potentially the slightly larger plant, it got a couple leaves ahead of time, and so it grows these roots out and could potentially block off its partner plants, its peers, resulting in dwarfed crop production. So we might get a large crop here and a short crop here, and then a large crop here, and then a short crop here again, because our long roots have gone off and cut off the possibility for this other plant to grow. So short roots for both the shallow rooting depth as well as competition. One way we can guarantee or select for smaller, shorter roots to fit within this system is to choose crops which have a short days to maturity, or low count of days to maturity. DTM stands for days to maturity. These are the number of days after planting a crop that it is ready to be harvested. So if we start with a seed, that's day 0. When we're looking for low days to maturity, that's typically around a month. So for example, lettuce is a perfect crop for this scenario. It has a low days to maturity, it is of smaller stature and has lower roots. So if we're seeding at day 0, then we have growth until harvest. Whatever this day of harvest, let's say 30 for lettuce, this is your DTM. One final factor that must be considered in this system, but it is well controlled by these short-rooted, low DTM crops, is looking out for weight. We want a low crop weight at the end. Again, low crop weight tends to follow from a low days to maturity and a short-rooted plant, but there's a real infrastructural reason for this. If we take this channel, once again, the core piece of an NFT system, if we take this channel and kind of expand it, we can look at what's supporting it. With nutrient film technique, there is of course this film of water flowing through each channel. So water is pretty heavy. Even with a thin film, it weighs about 8 pounds per gallon, so this is already increasing the weight of this structure. But then of course, you want to actually put some crops into it, right? We're increasing the weight yet again All these crops weigh a little bit at the start, and they're going to weigh a whole bunch more as they grow, or at least hopefully, right? That's what we're trying to do, is grow these plants from smaller to bigger so that we can then eat them. With every bit that we increase the weight of this channel, we increase the amount of support we need to give it. With a classic NFT system, these troughs are held about waist high off the ground by some kind of support structure like this. This can be the simplest and least you might need, one support strut at either end of the channel. However, depending on channel length and how heavy that channel gets, what crop you've put into it and how big they are growing, this weight can become too much for simply two supports, one at either end. If your crops are too large or simply packed too densely, one way or another adding too much weight into this trough, then you're definitely going to need more supports. Because all of this weight is putting stress and tension on this pipe to bend, and it's just, there's support here, there's support here. It is bending and flexing this way and this way, which of course brings in yet another support at least. And this of course is driving up the cost to run this system. Now you can't get around this. You need to put in the supports that are required by your system to keep your channel straight, to keep it from flexing, bowing, breaking. Keeping small crops minimizes your need to do this. There's also yet more infrastructure that can come when you try to go vertical with your production. So if we were to take a side view, so rather than this long view of these channels like this, we took a side view looking at them long ways, we could see a rack of channels going vertical, trying to increase crop density and productivity per square foot. This first trough only needs the same support that this trough does, just lifting it off the ground, keeping the weight supported. However, these next troughs, as you go higher, they not only need longer standing pipes, that makes sense, but they need greater and greater standing support. And the more of this you need, the heavier your crops. If you've avoided these things and are growing large, heavy crops, the more of this structure you're going to need. And of course, again, the more money this is going to cost. So there we have it. Crop selection for nutrient film technique hydroponics involves focusing on fitting the roots into the growing channel. We want short roots because of our shallow rooting depth and crop competition. This slight slope leans all the roots towards one of the crops rather than, or pushes competition for roots down the channel. And so the shorter your roots, the less likely you'll experience crowding and dwarfing. This is basically controlled by choosing low DTM crops. You want small crops that grow quickly and are harvested promptly for nutrient film techniques. So there we go. It's all about the roots when choosing crops for nutrient film technique.